I've said it before, I don't like to edit, upload and record all in the same day. If you've got any kind of conditions that mean your energy levels are flexible at best, let's say, it's not a good idea to try and put all your eggs in one basket, as it were. But every now and again something comes along and I'm like, I guess I can do it. I do have at least a video in the chamber for after, and I'll probably record some in between these ones being done, because I'll probably need a break afterwards. I'm better at looking after myself, I acknowledge that. But unlike the Marvel thing, where I kind of felt like I was chasing the algorithm, if you saw a previous video where I discussed this, the plans for moving forward, you'll know what I mean. But instead of doing that, I was like, I want to do things that I really enjoy. And then I noticed that The Legend of Vox Machina had dropped, and I was like, well, it's probably all in one go. However many episodes it is, I'll binge it a few weeks down the line, so everyone's had a chance, give my thoughts. Well, then I realised, no. It's been dropped in 3-episode chunks, and then I was like, I'm doing this again, aren't I? I'm chasing it. So I started watching last night, and then I noticed that episode 4 was ready to play straight after. I didn't know it'd actually drop at midnight for me too. So I was like, okay, let's watch the next 3. Went to bed later than I should, but I knew I wanted to do this today and be as up to date as possible. So yes, I'm going to talk about The Legend of Vox Machina. I wasn't an early adopter of Critical Role at all, or tabletop game streaming at all, but Critical Role is the big one, and obviously that's directly related to this. My views on D&D and all tabletop gaming is that it's a thing you do. You experience it live. Even if you're in the room watching people, you will be in that room with friends, maybe even just acquaintances. But if you're in a good roleplay focused, particularly, group that has a long campaign and you go every session, those acquaintances will become friends. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll have some amazing moments together that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't done that. That's what D&D, and like I say, tabletop gaming in general, is about, to me. So, yeah, I knew it was a thing, but I never went to it. I never bothered. But then I saw a clip, and I was like, this is crazy. I like this. So I started watching, and I have enjoyed every moment since. The whole of Campaign 1, great. The whole of Campaign 2, again, it's one of those things where I'd forgotten how Campaign 1 started. Campaign 2 felt a bit kind of, oh, they're just going silly. But there was a lot of silliness before everything got really serious in Campaign 1 too. And I haven't caught up fully with Campaign 3 and even Exandria Unlimited. I've got a massive backlog of YouTube stuff I'm trying to get through. But yeah, I'm enjoying these people, these worlds, and some of the guests they bring in, some of the one-shots and things. So I'm along for the ride. I respect these people. There are things that people have said that maybe some people have done, or some viewpoints they've shared that are a bit ropey, but I don't know about some of that. All I've seen, for the most part, is positivity. So unless I see something myself, that's what I'm going to agree with. So yeah, the actual show itself, it dropped, and like I say, I've been excited in the lead up. But there was one thing that I was wondering if they would deal with. It's the elephant in the room. That's not an elephant. It's the Dragonborn in the room. And some of you immediately know exactly what I mean. For those who don't, there was another member of the cast, both in the terms of Vox Machina and a player. And the subreddit says we do not speculate about this situation. And I agree with that. I'm not going to speculate, and any speculation in the comments will be removed. That's your warning. I don't want anyone saying it's because of this, because of that. Anything that isn't immediately verifiable will be removed. But yes, there was another member. Tiberius Stormwind, played by Orion Akaba. And for reasons, that player and thus the character they played left. And since then there has been a quiet erasure, I think is the nicest way to put it. And the cynical part of my brain kind of says it's a bit, you can't pretend it didn't happen. However, it was only 20 odd episodes in. But yeah, that is something that I was keenly aware of when it came. I mean, the Kickstarter, when it first came out, under the FAQ, will Tiberius appear? And it was just no. No explanation, no fluffing about with it, no making it sound, oh, well, we're sort of taking it in a different direction. Anything like that. It was just, no, Tiberius is not in this. And again, I respect that. I'm not going to speculate on anything. They could have perhaps done it. I mean, there are nods to things in these episodes that are absolutely hilarious, so they could have done things to maybe at least go, yes, we know that was the thing, but we're not dealing with it. But again, it was their decision. They're all executive producers in this. They all have creative control. They were all involved through various stages of production. And yeah, that's what they want to do. The community is okay with it from what I can see as well. We all understand that these things happen. Behind the scenes issues should not affect everything moving forward. I've enjoyed these episodes, even knowing that this thing will not appear and we've got to work around it. But I loved a lot of this. And before I go much further, you may have noticed there wasn't a spoilers ahead. I mean, the whole thing with Orion isn't technically a spoiler because it's, again, so early and it's glossed over. But I don't want to discuss anything really in detail of the campaigns themselves or the show, because it's still going at the moment. And people may not have watched Critical Role in its entirety. This may be their entry into it, and then they'll go and watch it. So I don't want to spoil things. So that's why I didn't put up a spoilers ahead. But these episodes are so great. They're so full of nods back. And nods forward, technically, chronologically speaking. There is a certain book in a certain shop that anyone who's seen later things will be very familiar with. There's all these little things that you just see in the corner. I mean, I've watched a lot of the videos building up to it, and much of the team, if not all of the team at Titmouse, are critters to a degree. If they weren't when they started, I think they've become over time. But there's so much good here, and of course we have a stellar cast. We have the cast all reprising their roles, apart from Matt, because he's not voicing everyone who isn't the main cast, which makes sense. They can actually get people in to voice other characters, and some of them they've been involved with in the actual tabletop games. We have Carrie Payton as one very notable example. But then we've got Dominic Monaghan, who appeared recently. We have Indira Varma. I think I've said her name right. I hope I have. I'll correct myself, I'm sure. Who is always dying to me. We're constantly killing Susie in Torchwood. I know she's been in a lot of things as well, but it's great to hear her as Lady Allura. We have David Tennant. That was the surprising one. I noticed the accenting straight away. I was like, that doesn't sound like someone doing a terrible gruff Scots accent. Sounds like it's possibly native, but then I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I know that texture. Even though he's put on a more gruff tone, I could tell. And I quickly looked up and I was like, yeah, that's David Tennant. We have some great cast here, and like I say, some surprising. And I really appreciate the fact that they were involved, because they could go, I guess, in some ways with the NPCs, Matt could go, that's the voice I was going for. So we have all these characters, and, they're sort of doing parts of the arc that we know, part of the backstory we're aware of. We have the hints at relationships that will come. We have the friendships being formed. I love the fact that we all know Scanlan is just a horn dog, but he does have a heart. Sam playing against Ashley could kind of give a glance across, but they made sure to incorporate that as well. These little kind of, I know I come off as this larger-than-life character who just will bed any woman. That hasn't changed, but if the right woman came along, I'd probably tone that down at least. And I love the fact that they have captured that. I wasn't expecting, I saw the trailers and I was like, okay, it's going to have big heavy action scenes, but it's going to be really funny. I wasn't expecting any tears, especially in the first 6 episodes, but I was welling up at times. Pickle, Trickle, Fickle, as I always think of her, because my brain just does that thing where one sound repeats, and her issues that she goes through. I was like, oh no, I felt really bad, And actually on that note, I love the fact, because obviously she has something that happens to her again, not wanting to spoil anything, but she has to go on a bit of a separate journey. And it's almost like she's kind of got a bit of a blind spot in her faith. Again, that was very esoteric, and I apologise to those who aren't aware, but I will explain this one. During production of, I think, the first 2 campaigns only, I don't think there's been anything in 3 that she's had to disappear for, Ashley Johnson was in the TV series Blind Spot, and occasionally had to go across the entirety of the stage to film. So her character had to disappear for periods of her time, and I love the fact that they've incorporated that. They've had Pike's little sort of, like I say, side quest, I guess, a little journey of faith incorporated into that. But at least we get to see what was going on. And I like the fact that we get that. Where we had to kind of say, oh yeah, so she went away and did whatever, we get to see her going through that. And it must be nice for Ashley to be able to then act out those things. It's kind of annoying that they haven't just glossed over it and just gone, no, we'll just keep them together. But I do appreciate the fact that this gives a nice character arc for her. The last thing I really want to talk about, because if I go too detailed, I'm going to get into spoiler territory. I really appreciate how... Actually, no, there are 2 things. I really appreciate how this dark entity that is guiding Percy helped him create the List, which is a number of people who wronged him. It's who he's trying to get vengeance upon, and whose names are inscribed on his weapon. But yeah, this dark entity is starting to be seen by everyone around, and I like the fact they've incorporated it. I like how they've incorporated it, and plague masks have always scared me, and that's not going away. But yeah, the last thing that I quickly tacked on, because obviously I mentioned, Matt Mercer can't voice all the characters, but according to credits, he is voicing Trinket. I mean, we've heard him in the shows themselves. He's very good at doing the little guttural growls and little sounds of curiosity and everything like that. He can emote as a bear, basically. If it is actually him and it isn't a miscredit, I don't see why it would be. I'm really happy with that, because it keeps a consistency to the character. And I guess another thing that I've tacked on, because I've just remembered it, I think every episode there is an NPC who is drawn and animated to look like Matt Mercer. I respect that. It's almost like a hidden Mickey thing in Disney films. But yeah, so this is the beginning of a very interesting series. I think we're about halfway through. I think it's been split over 2. Like, there's 24 that's listed on IMDb, but it says season 1's only up to 12, so I don't know if that's correct. Anyone who's got any better information on it, please let me know. I'm happy to be corrected. But yeah, first thoughts on The Legend of Vox Machina. Yes, I am here for it. If you've watched Critical Role, particularly Campaign 1, because that's what it directly ties to, watch it. What are you doing? If you haven't seen Critical Role, watch it. If you like fantasy and really silly moments, but then really heavy emotional beats and some amazingly well animated action scenes, you're gonna love it, and you might end up going and watching the shows, which is always good as well. Support this kind of weird entertainment. And while I'm there, yeah, there are others. Critical Role isn't the only tabletop game streaming out there. There is a lot of others, and some say others are doing things better. Some are obviously worse. Everyone who is doing it out of love, though. So even if it's not, that entertaining to you, or you're not really enjoying it, still show respect to those people who are giving up hours of their life at a time for your entertainment. But yeah, Legend of Vox Machina, watch it. Simple as. And once the season's wrapped, maybe I'll do a bit more of a spoilery overview. If you want that, let me know in the comments for this or the subsequent videos. But I'll see you next Friday with the next chunk. So thank you for watching, and take care.